This is our garage ceiling, and as you see it is standard ceiling. As like other houses, any room over the garage ceiling gets cold and gets hot in winter and summer respectively because of insufficient insulation. My plan is to add additional ceiling just underneath this ceiling using the studs and the framing, and then add the insulation, additional insulation, so that in winter and summer it will give the proper temperature. So I'm going to start marking just 1 feet below this existing ceiling, one line over here and all around, and then add the 2x4 to the on each wall over here, and here, and one more on this side. And once that is done, then I'm going to use 2x2 to create this structure. Once those are hung on the ceiling, then cover it using the sheetrock and add the insulation before covering the entire ceiling. This is our garage ceiling, and as you see it is standard ceiling. As like other houses, any room over the garage ceiling gets cold and gets hot in winter and summer respectively because of insufficient insulation. My plan is to add additional ceiling just underneath this ceiling using the studs and the framing, and then add the insulation, additional insulation, so that in winter and summer it will give the proper temperature. So I'm going to start marking just 1 feet below this existing ceiling, one line over here and all around, and then add the 2x4 to the on each wall over here, and here, and one more on this side. And once that is done, then I'm going to use 2x2 to create this structure. Once those are hung on the ceiling, then cover it using the sheetrock and add the insulation before covering the entire ceiling. This is our garage ceiling, and as you see it is standard ceiling. As like other houses, any room over the garage ceiling gets cold and gets hot in winter and summer respectively because of insufficient insulation. My plan is to add additional ceiling just underneath this ceiling using the studs and the framing, and then add the insulation, additional insulation, so that in winter and summer it will give the proper temperature. So I'm going to start marking just 1 feet below this existing ceiling, one line over here and all around, and then add the 2x4 to the on each wall over here, and here, and one more on this side. And once that is done, then I'm going to use 2x2 to create this structure. Once those are hung on the ceiling, then cover it using the sheetrock and add the insulation before covering the entire ceiling. As you see, initially I marked the line 10 inches below the roof existing ceiling, and on that line I've attached the 2x4. So two sides are done basically, and I have to do the same thing for all other sides. So I've used the nails and the stud screws to attach this 2x4. So I'm going to do this same thing on this wall as well as on this wall, so basically on all the 4 walls, and then this is going to act as a base for base or kind of a support for the soffit which I'm going to add to the ceiling. So let me first finish this part, and then once it is done I'll show you what my plan is. And now the periphery of the ceiling for side support of the framing is done on all the sides. This is how it is. We started from this end, but everything is done, and this is for this I've used 2x4 stud, and the bottom and the bottom of the stud is 10 inches from the ceiling. If I show you here, it's like this, 10 inches of the ceiling. And now I'm going to install the frames across this siding, and one frame I've already installed. For framing I'm using 2x3, and this is a 2x3 8-foot stud, and then another 2x3 5-foot stud will go like this from this end to this end, and this vertical 2x3 supporting studs are 7 inches. So when I enforce this entire 2x3 8-foot stud with the bottom one, it will be like a 10 inches frame. So basically I have to do this all across this ceiling. So this is first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and all the way here 8th. I have only single circular saw, and cutting these pieces of 7 inches using the from the 2x3 is kind of a repetitive job using the circular saw. And for that what I've done is I've used the circular saw and one platform to prepare a bench saw using the circular saw. Let me show you the structure the way I've done it. So over here I place the circular saw on the platform, and the blade is at the bottom, which will be visible once I flip this entire thing. And let me show you on the other side how exactly it looks. This is how it looks on the other side. The distance between the blade and here is 7 inches. So when I am going to place the 2x3 stud like this and just cut it and pass it all the way, and this will be the 7 inches 2x3 piece. So since I need 53 pieces, it's going to be a quick turnaround time for this one, rather than using singular saw to cut the 2x3. And all these 7 inches studs, I'm going to nail it on the 2x3 8-foot studs, the way we have installed it over here. Once this is done, then the next step is going to be the insulation, and then installing the sheetrock on from the bottom side. And now to ease the operation, I've laid down all these 7 inches studs which we have cut already on this side as well as on this side. And basically I'm going to take this 8 feet stud, place it on the each of this stud, and then using the nail gun I'm just going to nail it. Once this structure is done, then I'm going to add another 7 inches at the bottom. So basically this will allow me to create the entire frame structure quite easily. So let me place all the 2x3 studs on this and then show you how I'm nailing them pretty quickly. And flush each side on this side as well as on this side, and just use the nailer to nail them. So this is done. Then go for the next one. Just see that whether they are flushed properly and just go for So all the framing is done, and as you see, all these frames are enforced on the existing studs on the old ceiling using the nails, and they're pretty tight now. So this is how it looks. And in addition to this, I've added additional recessed lights over here. So there are total 4 lights are there to brighten the garage. Earlier there were only 2 dim lights, and now these lights are pretty bright white lights, and the ceiling framing looks good. Now the plan is to cut the sheetrocks into 4x4. That is, usually the sheetrock comes in the size of different sizes, but the one which I purchased is basically 4x8, but it's kind of difficult to enforce this sheetrock on the studs single-handedly. So I'm going to cut them into, I've cut them into 2 parts. One is 4x4 and the second one is also 4x4. If I see some difficulty, if I'm not able to install 4x4, then probably I'll go for 2x4 sheetrock installation. But otherwise, this is what the sheetrock is. And then this is R33. Once the sheetrock is installed, then I'm going to place this R33 insulation, that is this one, pink R33 unfazed insulation. I've already cut them into cut the size of 4 feet. So I'll place them in between the sheetrock and the old ceiling. Let me do that part first, and I'll show you how exactly it looks. So over here you see the frame, and this is the first 4x4 sheetrock placed on the frame, and similarly in the same fashion I've installed all other 4x4. Unfortunately, the installation video of this 4x4 I lost it, but it is pretty straightforward. You just place the sheetrock on the stud, and then screw it using the drywall sheet nailers. And in addition to this, wherever the joint came, I've added this support. So basically, this is going to help me with placing the other sheetrock on this side. So if you look at this one, now it is 1/4 is done, and other sheetrocks I've yet to install over here. And as I mentioned earlier, the 4 by 4 feet R33 insulation pieces which I've cut, I placed them in between the old ceiling and the new ceiling. So basically they are going to act as an insulator. So it is not yet done, but the plan is to first put the insulation in this one, complete this part, and then go for the next four next part. So and repeat the process until I finish with the entire ceiling. The only difficult part which I found in this is basically sheetrock. So, and I don't have the sheetrock lifter. So because of that, it is kind of difficult to carry the sheetrock all the way to the ceiling and then screw it using the dry nails. So other than that, it's kind of pretty straightforward, because for the insulation you have to just plug in that insulation in between the space, old ceiling and the new ceiling. So I'll finish this few sheetrocks and then I'll show you the ceiling one more time. So another set of sheetrock installation is done and it is looking pretty good. Now one more row is required and then some of the filler on this side, and then I'll be done. If you are wondering that how I'm putting this sheetrock, 4x4 sheetrocks on the ceiling, I'm using this 6-foot scaffold and just pushing those sheetrocks and resting them on the scaffold and then screwing them using the nailers. So let me finish this part and then I'll fill up the fill up it with insulation, and then we'll be done with everything. And here I'm done with the ceiling. Entire ceiling is done. I've done this, completed this covering of the ceiling couple of days back, and I could see the temperature difference in the rooms above this garage. Because of insulation, the temperature dropped drastically. The only thing which is pending in this entire project is now covering these sheetrock gaps. For that I'm going to use the sheetrock tape, and to paste this sheetrock tape I'm going to use the joint compound. That is this one, dust control joint compound, and this is the sheetrock tape. I've tried one in filling up the one joint using the tape, and this is how it looks after one day. Of course, it is not neat and tidy. Going forward, whenever I'm going to do the things, I'm going to do it properly. But this is just the cosmetic change, cosmetic thing which can be fixed by sanding the additional joint compound on this tape. But otherwise, it's kind of a done deal. So the process is simple. Take the putty knife, take the compound and put that compound on the joint tape, and then just paste this joint tape on the sheetrock. And once that is done, cover the sheetrock tape with the joint compound, so that it just covers the it just matches with the both the sheetrocks. To ease the operation of pasting this sheetrock tapes on the ceiling, what I've done is I've cut the sheetrock tape into 4x4 pieces, and then just using the dust control and putting this dust control paste on the tape, and then I will just carry this entire tape to the ceiling and paste it over there. So what I found that pasting the dust control joint compound on the ceiling is kind of a messy job. So this way I can join the sheetrocks or fill the gap of the sheetrock using this sheetrock tape very easily, and this is not going to be the messy, and it is kind of quick turnaround time for this one. The reason for using this approach is time saving, and the other thing is that this particular ceiling is just the second ceiling after putting the insulation. So as such it is not necessary that, or I'm not going to paint it out. So if you look around on the ceiling, you will see that it looks nice, and once it dries out, it is going to look nice, and I'm not going to paint it. It just, the aim is to fill up the gap, or just join use the sheet using the compound to fill the gap. And I'm done with covering the gaps between the sheetrock, and this is the final ceiling. Can do one more thing additional over here, that paint the ceiling with the white color and paint the garage walls, and then that we can call it as a final go. But as of now I'm happy with whatever it came out. 4 recessed lights, 1 feet below the original ceiling, new ceiling with the insulation 33R, and drastic temperature reduction in the rooms above the garage.